Hi guys, as the weather outside is awful, I thought I'd come inside and do a few bits and pieces. First of which is to work out the plans, as I said in the last video, to change Huw's bed, which is 10 foot by 4 foot, so 10 rows of 4 foot wide, into something that works with my 6 foot square beds. So what I've managed to do is divided them into 10 beds, 8 of which are 7 inches wide, and 2 of which, the 2 centre ones there, are 8 inches wide. So it's slightly smaller ones, wider ones, slightly smaller ones. What this will mean is that I'll have to adapt some of Huw's suggestions for quantities. So whereas Huw might have 2 rows in his beds of 4 foot long, I'll have to go with a single row of 6 feet. So I will be slightly less in terms of available size, but it should mean that I can achieve something close to Huw's cropping amount with the beds that I've already got, without having to build a specific bed to run the challenge in. Later on, I will probably put up the some pictures showing some of the other bits and pieces next. Cheers. Right, well, as the weather is foul outside, I thought I'd try and just show you my plan and what I was hoping to do and get in as part of the Huw's Veg in One Bed protocol for this month. Now, according to Huw's plan, the first 2 rows are potatoes, first early potatoes. The next 2 will be broad beans, but not put in the bed until next month. Number 5 is lettuce. Number 10 is radish. Now, in Huw's book, it suggests 2 rows of radish and 2 rows of lettuce, with the radish sown a couple of weeks apart because it's so quick growing. Because I've had to adjust the size of my bed and the scale of my bed, I'm going to plant a single sowing of radish, but rather than 2 rows or standard seed drills, I'm going to grow them in staggered sort of brickwork sort of style fashion. And I'm going to plant just a little clump of 3 or 4 seeds in each to make sure that I get some grow. Yes, it does mean that they'll compete and you'll end up with smaller radishes, but that's fine. We eat lots of very, very tiny radishes. They're great. They're very sweet. They're just lovely at that sort of stage. Lettuces, rather than cut and come again, and rather than 2 rows, again, it's going to be a single row. I'm going to grow a single row of little gem lettuce in there. The basic principle being that if I can harvest the radishes in one hit and the lettuces in one hit, it makes it easier for the food bank to distribute, because they've got a reasonable quantity rather than a couple here and a couple there. Progressive sowing isn't really the name of the game there. Same with the broad beans. Ironically, the broad beans are the only thing I've had to go and buy because it's the only thing we don't eat because we're not particularly keen on them. Again, in Huw's example, he suggested you can put 10 potato plants in. Because mine are quite narrow, so it's 2 7-inch beds there, that's 14 inches across between both beds. I think that's the cat knocking something down. I'm going to go with 5 spaced equidistantly along that bed down the centre of those two rows. That should give enough space either side that it doesn't crowd out any other crops. And the broad beans, rather than planting 2 rows next to each other in uniform lines, again, I'm going to do the staggered brickwork pattern, but it's still going to mean that I'm going to need about 10 active broad bean plants. Okay, so what I'm going to grow is little gem lettuce. Love this little gem lettuce. I know these seeds are good. I have some already in seedling stage with almost 100% germination rate, so they're really good. And it provides a nice little lettuce that somebody can take. They can either put into a salad, sandwiches, things like that. But it's nice, it's crisp. It's a rather than just a bag of leaves, which again increases single-use plastics, all that kind of jazz, which I don't want to get involved with. And for radish, it is in French breakfast 3, which are lovely, sweet little radishes, grow very quickly and are excellent. For the first steady potatoes, I have Swift. Now, these potatoes are chitted in a what I would call a half HGV process. So if you've ever seen Homegrown Veg, he grows all his vegetables in 10 10-litre water buckets, and he starts them off in yogurt pots and plants them deep and waits for the plant to grow and then pots them on using a particular technique. Now, what I try to do by my sort of method is I want the roots to grow and start to develop, but I don't want long chits. So about 3 or 4 weeks before I plant them out, I put them in a tray of slightly damp seed compost. That creates your chits and encourages your chits to grow towards the light, but they stay green, they stay small, but it encourages the root development, which will really give it a boost when we get them into the ground. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be using. Some of these were destined for my how long can my season be potato project. So for those that don't know, I was planning on planting first earlies, second earlies and main crops on the 1st of February, 1st of April, 1st of June and 1st of August, just to see what length of season I could get from my potatoes, whether I could pretty much grow potatoes all year round effectively. So I'm going to steal 5 of these and replace them with some. I've got sort of lightly chitting ready for the next lot, so it shouldn't really affect my experiment too much, but it means I've got 5 to get in the ground almost immediately. As I said before, I'm going to be planting broad beans. I don't like them myself, but I'm sure somebody will find use for them at the food bank. I'm growing Meteor on the basis that they're probably the fastest and most straightforward to grow, so that's an ideal one for me. Now I'm going to need to plant 10 of these this month to then plant out next month by my calculations. Huw's book says 18 for his, but again he's got slightly different shapes to his beds, and he can get away with a lot more. Huw's suggestion is to grow them inside these cardboard tubes, just toilet roll tubes, because it allows the taproot to be planted whole and therefore not to disturb the plants as you plant them out. Unfortunately, I haven't had enough notice, so I've only got 3 of those. The rest I will be planting in these same sort of thing, compost pots. What I will do, however, when I plant them out, I'll cut the bases out so that again same principle applies, and we can get them from there. What I will be doing to ensure that I get germination in each of the 10 receptacles I'm planting it in is I'll be planting 2 seeds on the basis that once they've all come up, I will prick out either the weakest seedling for the ones that aren't necessary, or if I get double dud, I'll transplant one, but otherwise it will be just take out the weaklings and leave the strongest ones to go into the bed, because as I said, I don't eat them myself, so I don't have any other use for them. So, but it's just to ensure that I get the right number. I'll come back to you fairly shortly, now that the sun's come out, to show me getting these things into the ground. Okay, just for anybody interested, apologies for the flashing lights. That's the spectrum from my lights, appears to be interacting with it. But yeah, these here are the broad beans, all potted up. I'm just going to pop a cover over the top. They're on my heated propagator hotbed, and yeah, they'll come in here just until they start to emerge. As soon as they get their first 2 seed leaves, the cotyledonal leaves up and out, they'll be moved to the polytunnel so they can harden off. I'll leave the plastic cover, one of those, on overnights for a little while just to harden them off, and then they'll be away. So we get a good start when we put them in the ground. But no, those are not melons. Yes, don't tell me off, because I know they're way too early. These were all planted as a germination test. I changed my allotments at the end of May last year, so I didn't grow any of these, and these are all from saved seed from previous years when I had my other allotments. I put these in as a test for viability, and as you can see, it appears that the seed I saved was actually pretty good. So I've got an absolute ton of melons about 2 months before I needed them. So we'll see if they survive. If not, no harm done. I'll sow some more seed in May. I've got plenty left over, and as I said, it was more of a germination test than anything else. I'll be back shortly when I'm at the plot planting. Cheers. Right, here we are actually on the plot to start putting some bits and pieces in. You'll see that down the edge of the beds I've marked out the individual measurements according to Huw's plan, so that I can more easily do this as time goes on. You'll also see that the sun comes from this direction. This is south facing here, so I've done them all of the 10 rows side on, so nobody shades anything else, so you've got consistent light. We step back a bit, and you'll see that radish was in bed 10. You'll see a drill there. Lettuce is in bed 5, drill prepared there, and then potatoes in beds 1 and 2. What I've done is I've dug out some holes. It looks like the holes are actually more towards bed 1 than they are bed 2, but actually it just was easier to scoop the soil, so the potatoes will be placed directly between beds 1 and 2, if you see the mark there, because they're only 7 inches wide each bed. All I've done is I've dug it down, remembering that indeterminate potatoes, that's earlies, will never set potatoes lower than the seed potato. They'll only set potatoes above that point. So you dig it as deep as you can. In the bottom I've put some potato fertiliser. Yeah, I'm going to put a small handful of compost in the top. Potato, then hill them up. Later on, when they start to protrude, I'll hill them with some more compost so that beds 1 and 2 are a mound. We'll be back in a moment when it's done, just to show you the finished article. There you go, all tucked in and done. Just give them a quick watering in a moment, and be back first of the month to start the next lot and give you an update on how this lot's progressing.